You mind if we turn off your camera?
Don't worry, it's boring. Today we went like the back way, like the highway.
Larry, do you mind if we turn off your camera?
So you guys going to the Galilee Center?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Can't hear it, obviously.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Larry?
Galilee.
Yes.
They're
Wait a minute, maybe it's our
the
volume.
organization that was receiving a lot of the asylum.
I can't hear you. There
Once
we
they
go.
were Released from the detention
So
center.
do you mind if we turn off your camera?
Really close, they're about an hour.
Please do. Yes.
Okay,
They
thank
were
you.
getting a lot of the refugees, they rented out this hotel, 80 rooms.
And is Jeff going to join us?
Virtually. Those families we're connecting them with the whole family. So a lot of them did not have those families, so they.
And Andrea, are you okay with me sharing my screen similar to how we did last time? I think I'm able to. Yeah.
Great.
How are you?
Yes, and so
Look.
I told them,
This is.
I told them I can't open it.
Oh.
Like, oh, for hack.
I haven't added people to that.
You gotta try. You have a good.
And let me contact you.
It just looks like. This means.
Okay, because I was trying to get a bunch of people that I didn't know accepting that.
This is my like fertile area. As I grew up in the desert. I'm happy in the desert.
There's snow on the mountains. So beautiful.
You guys out in the
Oh, yeah.
The first watch the episode, I shouldn't be alive. That's the truth.
No.
Don't wander about the trails.
Yeah, you told me that. But
I started 5 meters off the trail and I started to get.
So your show's just a little late. I don't know if you're gonna join us virtually. Did you want to start? Okay.
Is Jeff going to join us?
He said he is gonna join us virtually. Let's see if he's here yet. See him. I did send him the Zoom. All right. Perfect.
It started.
You're able to reschedule?
It's gonna be fast.
Yeah, I could.
skipping these.
About Jeff?
Board, right?
He thinks he is, but no.
Hey.
Good one, Larry.
Thanks, buddy.
I just said out loud what everybody was thinking.
Hi, Angelica.
Board member 8. Board member 8.
Hi, Billy.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
We're good. We're good.
I'm jealous that Ori and Sophie and Leia get to be out there, as evidenced by my sweatshirt right now.
Well, it's not that hot.
Really?
Yeah.
A little cold for us.
It's cold for us. We're at a restaurant yesterday and they had the heaters like blowing down on us. As though it was like a New York winter. We asked for So is everybody here who's supposed to be here?
In person, yes. We do have a quorum. Yes, ma'am.
So we call the meeting to order? The meeting to order at 4:32. Roll call, please.
Director Forestio,
Here.
Director Shore has not joined us, Director Delara,
Here.
Director Logston,
Present.
Secretary Baraza,
Here.
Vice President Rodriguez.
Here.
And President Rogers.
Here. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have approval of the agenda? I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Is there anyone online, Andrea, for public comment?
Let's see, at this time, we'll take public comments for items that are not listed on the agenda. If you have a public comment for item not listed on the agenda, please raise your hand. Anyone, a public person, seeing none.
Great, okay, on to the event for the night, strategic planning. I'll turn it over to one of you.
So much. Thank you, everybody, for making the time. We have a long session tonight and we are going to accomplish two things. One is we have completed the discovery process. And so we are happy to share the findings of that discovery process. I know that everybody has had, I hope everybody's had access to the discovery report. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it in detail. I hope you have. If you've looked at it, you know that we designed it so that it's digestible. So we had, top findings, and then we had a section that was more dedicated to the detail findings. No matter how much of it you've consumed or how much time you spent with it, it's really, really important that we all start on the same page with the same knowledge. So what we would like to do today is to just go through the top 14 recommendations and the top findings for the financial sustainability report so that everybody has the same foundation to work from. Does that sound good to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay. So we will do that first. And then the second half of the night will be really the kickoff of the next phase, which is the first workshop for the strategic planning process. So that's really exciting. Before I start, is there any comments, any thoughts, any questions before we jump in? Sound good? Okay, so let's jump in. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody in the room for their participation in the discovery process, because it is really, the starting point for us. And so we want to thank you for your involvement and your insights and your participation. So it wouldn't be possible without the participation of the entire group here in the room. And, this is a very important time in the district in the foundation's process. This new strategic plan really has the potential to not only deepen the local impact that you're all devoted to making to the community of the Coachella Valley, but it is also an opportunity for the district and the foundation to really become leaders for the rest of the area. So it has, a lot of implications. So what we want to do today is we want to tell you what we did during this discovery process, what we found, the top line, and we can answer any questions you have. What's next? And then answer any questions that you may have. So again, we start with all of the same knowledge and agreements. That's really important as we go forward. We want to make sure that as we go through this process, everybody comes along as a unified group. That's really our intent. Not 100% agreement, because that's never really possible, but 100% understanding of where we are. Okay.
Would you like to introduce your team?
Oh, sure. Okay. So Leah, I'm not going to let everybody introduce themselves. Leah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am one of the social impact consultants with SOIN, and I'm working directly with Sophie as a project lead for this initiative that we're working on. And it's been great. It's been 4 months almost. And the discovery process, we learned a lot. It was really exciting. And now that it's our second time here, I think we're a little more familiar with the landscape. We're getting to meet more partners, getting to see everyone a second time around. So yes, excited to be back and working with you all.
Ori, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Owen Carmel. Started Sewin about 8 years ago. Have been involved in this project right from the start. Excited to support it. Well, Sophie and Sophie is the lead, and Leah and the rest of the team are doing a fantastic job, very much involved. This is my first visit here. Been to Palm Springs and the Valley before, but my first visit with everybody here. So thank you very much for the hospitality. I'm looking forward to this evening. Billy and John, do they need to? Sophie, do you want to?
Yes, go ahead. Angelica and Billy, do you want to introduce yourself to the team?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Angelica Jeter. I serve as Senior Health Advisor and Consultant at Sewin. So excited for these conversations that we're going to have this week. After the assessment, I have more questions, and I'm looking forward to diving into our work session today and tomorrow. With that, I will pass it to Billy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Billy Powers. I advise on research and policy here at Sewin with this amazing team. And I echo Angelica's it's only the most positive questions, but it's such an opportunity. You only have questions when there's a real opportunity. But yeah, I'm here to support mainly on kind of looking at this project and its potential through the lens of maximizing sustainability through multiple dimensions, but most notably making sure that the dollars go as far and for as long as they can through the prism of impact.
All right, we'll pass it back to you, Sophie.
Okay, we're just loading up the presentation. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what did we do during this discovery process? So what we did was really start with a beginner's mind and really look at where we are today in order to understand where the district and the foundation can go in the future. And we were looking to establish a very strong foundation for, like I said, the strategic process we're about to embark on. So we held multiple listening sessions and work sessions with both the staff, the leadership at the foundation and the district, and with the board and with community partners. And the idea was to really, again, create this trust-based relationship, because this is what's necessary in order to really develop a plan that's going to be adopted by the organization and that leads to the results we're looking for. We deployed a mixed method approach to really understanding the organizational strengths and opportunities and weaknesses. We both use qualitative and quantitative approaches to get to those findings. We performed an analysis of the current strategy and looked at comparable health districts. You guys are, you're distinct, but we looked at other health districts to see how they approach the process and their strengths and opportunities. And then obviously we also very much did not want to reinvent the wheel. So we looked at all of the existing research and existing documentation that you have provided for us. And thank you so much to Megan in particular, who provided a lot of that information. So that's what we did in the first place. We established a strong foundation. We were guided by, this is hard to read, but a holistic approach. And as you know, we from the beginning have said that we would look at the organization from a number of perspectives to get that holistic approach. We looked at the culture, we looked at the knowledge that is existing, how you're using data currently, how it is driving decision-making, which is very, very important, right? Because that is a huge part of strategic planning, that it is not just pulled out of thin air or for a particular, personal bias, but because it is data-driven. We looked at the people that are in the organization, the experience they have, the level of expertise, that is basically the human capital that is going to drive the strategic plan. We looked at all the processes and the tools that you're currently using, because again, a strategic plan is only as good as if it can be implemented and adopted by the organization. And a lot of that has to do with the processes that are in place, the staff that's in place, and the tools that are in place in order for that to make that a reality. Any questions? Please stop me at any point if you need more clarification. I want to make sure that I'm assuming that you've read and you're familiar with these things because we have talked about them throughout the process, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions. So before we dive in to the detailed findings, we just want to say congratulations. You know, it's always really important to, first of all, acknowledge that you are in a really good place. You're in a really strong position to enter this next phase of strategic planning. You have a strong financial standing. You are a trusted strategic funder in the region. People respect the organization. You're known as being a convener for the community, and that is able to amplify collaboration. And as we know, this is also very, very important. You're led by a talented and dedicated board and staff and leadership team that are ready to implement and develop this next strategic plan. And, you know, again, everybody is a work in progress, and there's always opportunities for improvement and optimization, but there are some very clear opportunities for optimizing certain parts of the process that will ensure the future success of the organization. So that's where we really want to start, is congratulations and a job well done. And you're coming from a position of strength. Okay. So let's dive into the key findings. So the first one is that there is definitely an opportunity to reaffirm and refine the vision and the mission statements. They remain meaningful and relevant, those statements that you have today, but they should be really reaffirmed by the key stakeholders to ensure full alignment and future relevance. And that is actually what we're going to dive in today. So we're going to address that head on, waste no time, and we're going to conduct a True North workshop, because at the end of the day, an organization's True North guides everything that it does. So it's so incredibly important that everybody agrees on these two statements. Because it will really make the rest of the work very, very important. Okay. The second one is there is an opportunity to define the district and foundation roles to reflect the new paradigm. So there is, in our conversations, both with the staff and the board, there's a little bit of a lack of differentiation between the district and the foundation roles. And that needs to be addressed in order to strengthen the organizational alignment and unlock new collaboration and funding opportunities. So if everybody's roles are clear, then their actions can be clearer. So we want to conduct later on in this process a work session to really think about how we can clearly articulate the roles of these two entities and how they complement each other in advancing the community health needs that you're trying to address, and also optimize the financial opportunities for both the short term and the long term. So that is definitely again, if there's any questions along the way, please let me know. But that's definitely something that is we would recommend addressing sooner than later versus leaving that kind of vague definition of roles. So this is the core recommendation that we need to refine focus and strengthen strategic alignment. The current pillars are a strong foundation, but they require greater focus and definition and measurability, and distinction between goals, strategies, and activities in order to really be an effective document that guides all of the organization and all actions and the way grantees use it, and also to guide resource allocation. So what we really are encouraging you to do is you currently have, 7 goals, 34 underlying strategies. That's a lot. There's no doubt. And some of them read more as like broad aspirations rather than actionable SMART goals. And I think we've talked about that in the past. So we really encourage you to increase your focus by considering, for example, reducing the number of strategic pillars, and also adding SMART goals underneath each, so that everybody has a very clear sense of where they're going and what we are addressing. And that doesn't mean that we don't allow for flexibility, because a strategic plan is only a guiding document. It is not, static, and it needs to be flexible, but it also needs to be actionable. And if it's too broad, then it makes it difficult to actionable. Yes, Dr. Litt.
So you said that 7 seems to be a lot of goals. I don't think there are a lot of goals for our organization. What do you think would be this is an idea to kind of, put me in understanding why you would say that. What is the number that you think would be the right number?
So there is no magic number, right? I would say that we could aim to go from 7 to 5 to 4. And it's just, it's not a question of not acknowledging that things are important. It's just giving focus.
Okay, I just wanted to have an understanding. I didn't want to get into.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it makes it much more realistic to start measuring the impact that I know that everybody here is very, very keen to measure. Right? That everybody has said in all of our conversations that the idea that we're making a measurable difference in our community, that our work can be validated in that way is important to everybody, the staff and the board. And I think that is a much more achievable goal if you have, a smaller number of strategic pillars.
So one point of clarification, we were referring to 7 pillars for
7 pillars, yes.
areas. Now, under each one of these, there can be multiple goals.
Right.
So we can keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Right. In fact, there are 34 goals in total right now.
So just to clarify, I meant I also thought that 7 pillars
Yes.
are a good number, but I just to have an understanding of where you're coming from. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
I agree, disagree kind of thing, but just to get an idea.
And it's so important to the definitions, like we're going to keep saying, even in tomorrow's workshop for the social determinants of health, right? Common nomenclature and common definitions are incredibly important. So I'm glad we clarified that. Yeah, strategic
When you do
pillars.
strategic planning, you kind of do goals. You don't hear the word pillars very often.
Yeah.
For that, so thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? Yes.
What's the time frame that you're viewing this strategic plan to be effective across? If you're narrowing our focus down to less pillars, what's that time frame that you need to revisit, to maybe addend or add or, adjust the pillars?
You
In
mean
your mind, yeah.
in this process that we're engaging in?
Yeah, how long is the strategic plan supposed to last us?
So right now, we are starting the strategic planning process with the pillars in December, the next one.
No, hold on, that's not a question. So we're putting a plan together. How many years should this plan be executed across in your?
5.
5.
5-year.
5-year plan.
So how many pillars do you need over 5 years is the question that you want to focus on before you go revisit, addend, add, or subtract.
Exactly.
So I don't know what that number is. Is it 4? Is it 7? Is it 10? I don't know. But we need to make sure that in our minds, we're thinking 5 years. A lot changes in 5 years. So if you narrow your pillars down to the point that you have 4 or 3 or whatever it is, you better make sure there are 3 really good pillars that you can build underneath, because you're not going to do this again for 5 years, and some of us won't be here probably. So, we really have to have, that's why I appreciate that clarification, because we're looking at a 5-year time window, not looking at 10, 15 years or 2 years. So, you kind of you narrow your focus based on the time frame.
Well, in my mind, I'm hearing that we have fewer pillars, but they're broader in scope.
Yes.
And I think to your point, excuse me, Director Logston, this is a 5-year plan, but I also think we should be thinking in terms of 10 years or more. But yes, the 5-year plan will come out of that, because I think if we look and think broader, then settling into that 5-year plan, I think is a really good way to, end up.
Well, that's what I also wanted to talk about at some point. I mean, I guess we can speak freely, but how far out are we thinking as a group? Are we thinking 15 years, 20 years? I don't know if I've heard from the other board members as to how you view the strategic plan. I mean, 5 years is an important window to you can really execute in there, but what you do in those years should really set you up for the next 15 or 20.
Exactly.
In my mind.
Yeah, because what we're coming from as being the owner of a hospital and all of a sudden no longer having that responsibility, it really is looking at a long-term plan and 5 years of that long-term. What is our future role going to be?
Absolutely.
The first 5 years may just be building foundation, and that's okay. We may just be foundation builders. and there'll be somebody else who takes the baton and executes more on that. But I mean, this first 4 or 5 years are going to be critical to build the foundation for the 20 years. So I want to make sure when we talk about these pillars, these are foundational pillars that you're building on, you know. So I think narrower makes sense when you talk about true foundation pillars. When we talk about goals and what you want to accomplish each year, there's probably a lot more.
What I would offer is the view, the change that you want to see in the world be within a 10, 15, 20-year time horizon, right? Because these things, the fundamental changes that we're talking about take time. The activities and the planning towards those changes should happen within 3 to 5 years because the dynamics change so, and because the reality around us changes can change quite dramatically. So in terms of building out plans, we usually recommend thinking about anywhere between 3 to 5 years in terms of the vision that you want to create. I think, looking at what do you want the valley to look like in 10 years, in 15 years? Those two things need to be in balance with each other. And both those considerations are super, super important.
And that's true as well as when we look at the financial sustainability plan, right? Because this strategic plan has to be accompanied with the financial plan. And Billy, if you want to jump in, please jump in at any point. But I think that's also an important consideration.
Yeah, just to kind of co-sign on all of this is that exactly as has just been said, is we are like the financial sustainability approach is to enable it's to think in terms of those sort of short 3 to 5 year timelines, the longer term 15, 30-year timelines, and a lot of it is going to be built around the number one, the tools that are available in the toolkit of the district and the foundation, but then also that are meant to align with the overall strategic approach and the context within which we're operating. So it's the questions are incredibly well taken and will be considered, but we're all in alignment here.
Okay.
And let the minutes reflect that Director Shore has joined us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry I'm late. I had a technical difficulties, to say the least. Locked myself out of the house.
It's not very technical, Arthur.
That's pretty technical for an idiot.
Well, Director Shore, we're just going through the top line results of the discovery report, just to ground you in where we are. So if we can help bring you up to speed in any way, please let me know.
Thank you. I'm up to speed. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's move on to finding number 4, which is, I think, again, a wish from across the board, which is that we need to have thoughtful integration of the determinants of health approaches into the planning and design of the new strategic plan, because it'll help the organization align its equity goals with its true north and track measurable community outcomes. So again, what we need to do is to develop a shared understanding of what determinants of health means, select a framework and integrate it intentionally into all the aspects of the planning that we're doing. And we have to be a little careful not to use it as a catch-all phrase. We have to be very intentional about what we mean and align it with the mission and the vision of the organization. And Angelica, if you want to jump in, please do so. But I know that you're going to be leading a workshop tomorrow to, again, help us define what it means and how we all align our work towards that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Thank you to everyone who was able to provide feedback on the assessment. I was actually reviewing everyone's feedback as we started our conversation. I think the alignment needs to be there. There's a lot that will come out of the discussion, and it's very interesting to see how folks are kind of divided on the terms that we should use as it relates to the health determinants terminology. Should we be focusing on the determinants of health, or should we be focusing on the social determinants of health? And those two phrases are very different. They're very similar, but they are very different in focus and meaning. So it'll be an interesting discussion tomorrow, and I'm excited. I'll pass it back to you, Sophie.
Thank you, Angelica. Okay, and this is one of our favorite ones, and Ori can jump in on this one because that's his favorite topic, is leveraging data-driven insights. So currently, you are gathering a lot of data, and you are gathering data at different steps of the process, which is wonderful because it puts you ahead of a lot of organizations, but there's definitely an opportunity to optimize that so that we can really ensure that all the decisions and funding are consistently guided by robust data. And that the data is timely, so that's super important, and is action and gives us actionable evidence of the work that we're doing. So the recommendation there is to build a SMART goal dashboard and really work to go from this strong base and formalize data processes and roles, and then strengthen the partnerships to really enhance the evidence-based decision-making that the organization can make. And really impact, it will really have a huge benefit to your impact measurement goals and wishes if we do that. Ori, did you want to add anything to
The
that?
only thing that I would add is again and again, both the ask and the opportunity comes up from your partners. Desert Health should be the clearest, most vivid, most accurate, most timely representation of what's actually happening to the residents on the ground. Right. And you're gathering more data than any other organization in your space. You are. There's an opportunity to bring it together a little tighter and make sense of it, make it more actionable, both for yourselves as an organization as well as for the partners. And I think that the organization is ready to take that next step. That's a tremendous opportunity ahead that, to be honest, not too many organizations like yours get to. So it's also a testimony to the hard work that's been done up to date.
What data are we talking about? What are we collecting now? I don't know if we are collecting data. I mean, you've got county health data that comes in, got financials, things that come in from the community about earnings, the cost of living, et cetera. But like what?
Demographics.
Well, that comes in. We don't collect that.
Collecting data from our grantees.
That we collect.
What was it?
That's on the ground data.
Donna, what
You collect we don't actually collect data from you, but I think, a lot of what you said is stuff that's already collected. Yeah, we can take some of that information and it can guide our decisions, but we currently need help developing data because we really are, I think your program, Donna, and Alejandro's program is very much ears to the ground in terms of what the need is out there. You see it, you hear from the grantees about what they're requesting money for and where the needs are. And they do align a little bit with our strategic goals, but you also see a lot of requests come in that maybe don't, but you can start to identify where the problems are. But, I think we should be that source of new data.
Mhm.
I think the data that comes out of the county is good. You take that, but I think part of what we should think about here is how do we collect actually authentic data that's actionable? Because a lot of the county data, I don't know, Greg, you know more about county data. I mean, it helps, but it's very tough to take action directly and swiftly on county data. It's much easier when we decide what we want to collect and say, hey, there are, I just heard this weekend, there's X amount of students and kids out here that can't get counseling services that want it. And so you're like, wow, okay, that the county and the state and the feds, well, even the city, they won't have that data, but you talk to the people, you talk to the food bank who comes in, so collect the data from the food bank, hear from them and put it in a spotlight and then broadcast it outside of their little funnel. So I think we need help with identifying that, because I think data-driven insights is really important to show that we are effective at what we're doing and we are meeting our mission, but we don't currently collect that. If you asked us for ROI on how we're doing, I think you have some, Donna has some on what we're doing, but there's a lot more we could do and then broadcast it out.
I actually think that we're doing good.
Yeah.
But we could do so much better. I think that what we have supported for almost a decade through HARP has been invaluable, not only to us, but to so many other nonprofits. And the work that we're doing now through RBA to be able to collect that data and use the sources and the creating these collaborations like through the school districts that we have that collaboration now when we have the meeting with the nonprofits So there are things that are starting to work and are very valuable, but we could be better. I think that's what I get from here is that we could be better.
That's exactly right. And the RBA framework is a great start. It is a great start. And we heard some positive feedback on the grantees and using that framework, but it definitely can be optimized. And as you're setting yourself up for the 5 years and then for the future, you have an opportunity to really be the leader and the central resource, for the data that can help all, not just this organizations, but the grantees that you work with and the partners that you work with. So we were talking about that in the car today. There's a lot of potential.
Yeah. Director Lawson, I couldn't agree more. I think it's important to remember that those things will require two areas. One is partnerships. You're not going to be able to do it by yourselves. Right?
Correct.
And it doesn't just mean partnerships with your teams. It also means partnerships potentially with, for example, academic institutions in the area, right? And two is a little bit of bolstering and investment in the data infrastructure that the organization itself has today and wants to have in the future. Because if we want to become the hub, to continue being the hub, but also extend to being the data hub and the decision-making hub, then that's going to require some additional resources, some additional tools that today we do not have.
Right, we're not equipped for that.
Not yet.
I would say a lot of the decisions we make aren't guided by data. They're just not, because that data just doesn't exist. A lot of what we decide on is based on kind of what we hear, but if you ask for backup data on any of it, it's very hard to provide. And so I think if we really want to kind of lead and be the tip of an arrow or a spear, if you look at what's out there in most public run entities, nobody actually knows what's going on. Even in a healthcare setting in a hospital, they can't answer fundamental questions on this. I mean, just side note about how we're doing it in one of the programs that I run at the hospital. We've implemented an AI software now for the past 3 years. I know everybody's echocardiogram that comes into the hospital. It categorizes it, screens it, and then activates care immediately once you get the echocardiogram. Immediately. That exists at very few programs across the country, but it takes a lot to get something like that up and running and to manage that data. And I think we can do that, and to do it in a public sector like this would be extremely powerful, because then you have actionable data that then you can say, here's the change. And then the best part is that you can show that what you did is effective. And if it is effective, other people will follow suit.
Exactly.
By the way, to tie back to your original question about the pillars, that's a pillar.
For sure.
Being the leading health district in the US in terms of aggregating and enabling data for decision-making, that's a strategic pillar.
It is. Sorry, get on my horse. I love data. Sorry.
I'm right there.
We're all aligned on that.
Yeah.
Anything else from the team? Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, we're collecting the data that we collect that, through our mobile clinics is very basic, demographic, or the last time you received a mammogram, a pap smear, et cetera. But I think it could definitely be enhanced.
You have cost data. What the cost to deliver a visit was, $62 with meds, something like that. That's incredible. That data, we asked about it, you came back and provided it, and now you can go out and say, we can deliver effectively primary care with meds for $62. The facility fee alone to see a patient at a hospital is $200. That's before you see a doctor or get meds. It's incredible, but that data is helpful. So expanding on that small little thing we're doing really impacts how other people may say, well, maybe this is a better way to deliver care with what you're doing. And so maybe more people now are going to open up these mobile clinics. Just man, for $62, we can see them in their location. They don't have to come to us and try to get there, and they get their meds. You're like, that's a no-brainer. And that should be done across the country if you want to lower cost of care.
Question. Do we have the authority, or should we have the authority to mandate that every one of our grantees develops an information management system along a protocol that's consistent, a generic protocol that's consistent, so that their reporting to us by definition begins to drive what Dr. Hodgson's saying?
Yeah, I
don't think that question is necessary could be answered right now. I think we're just getting into this. So we have a lot to get through tonight. But I think we need to put that on our parking lot issue thing.
It definitely follows under the pillar is like
But for
collecting
later
that
on.
data. Yeah, correct.
I'm just asking the question. I don't think you need, to- I don't, need- I don't, I'm not intending to disrupt the flow of process here. But as long as there's a general agreement that that's an agenda item that we need to process at the appropriate time, that's all I was trying to do is raise the question.
Thank you, Art.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you. Okay. So this is an important one. There's an opportunity to build an internal culture of collaboration. As you grow, as your mission grows, it's really, really, really important to foster a culture of collaboration. And that means improving communication, increasing trust and cohesion amongst the key stakeholders. And one of the recommendations that we have in order for you to really achieve the work that you're setting out to do, you can only do that as a team. And I think that Larry's work echoes that. Larry, if you want to jump in. But the way that everybody works together to bring this to life is really, really important. And so we really encourage you, the board, the staff, the leadership, to really embed collaboration in all of the strategic planning phases and governance through joint workshops and inclusive processes and very, very open communication. And, those things just take a little bit of practice and time. But we really encourage you to do that, which is why one of the recommendations we had was that everybody participate in these workshops versus, we do one workshop with a select group of people. And the same thing is true of the community sessions, right? We want as many voices to be part of the process. And so that should be mirrored in this room and in this process, right? Is that we make it community centered in a way with everybody's voices heard and incorporated throughout the entire strategic planning process. Any thoughts or questions?
I know that in a 5-year strategic plan 10 years ago, I heard from all the stakeholders that we invited to the group planning that 5-year plan. Their response was that this was the most valuable session that they attended, that they had really enjoyed having all the ideas from a lot of our major grantees come together and talk about what's needed in the community. So yeah, I'm happy to see that going forward. I know that NPO does a lot of that.
And we are so excited that actually those community sessions are actually scheduled to happen in February, but we're starting the planning today. So to make sure that it is as inclusive as possible. And so that leads us to the 7th recommendation, is that centering community voices is really, really important. The initial efforts to embed those community voices has been really impressive through the data walks, but it could be more systematic and it will be very useful in order to make the strategy more equitable and data informed and responsive to local needs, right? The more voices you hear from, the more you can ensure that you're responding to the community. So our recommendation is to build on those data walk initiatives, to create an ongoing engagement structure to gather, apply, and then communicate to the community back the insights that you're integrating. I think that's really important. Some of them said it's wonderful to participate in the data walks, for example, but we don't really know how that was integrated in the long term, or we don't know how, what. So that's another thing that we're also considering is through the community sessions is how we go back to the community and say, this is how we used some of the lived experience and comments that you shared with us. So it just doesn't go sort of in a vacuum. Over to you.
Okay, great. So moving on to the 8th recommendation, one thing that we've observed through our discussions for the staff and the community partners that we've met with so far is that Desert Healthcare District is a huge convener of organizations. There's, I think, somewhere between 400, we've heard 400 nonprofits, 800 nonprofits in the region, but there's a lot. We've heard there's a lot of fragmentation. There can be some tribalism. And it sounds like Desert Healthcare District has been a catalyst for bringing those organizations together and has an increased opportunity to do so. And so we think that with this new strategic plan, that should definitely be considered of how can you help these organizations, especially as they go through increasingly difficult times with cuts to funding and internal like capacity issues. So we want to help Desert build on that, but that's definitely an area that we saw was a great example of the work that you do. The next one is growing brand recognition. We've heard from a lot of people that a lot of residents associate Desert Healthcare District with the hospital, which you do not operate anymore. And it sounds like the mobile clinics, from everything we've heard from Alejandro, have been a great opportunity for the community to be more informed on the work that you're doing. We think with this next strategic plan, clearly the mobile clinics have been incredibly successful, and I'm sure that'll continue to grow. And we think there's other opportunities to increase your brand awareness so everyone in the Coachella Valley knows who you are, the work that you do, and how they can access the services that either you're directly providing or that you're funding. Next, moving on to grant making. We've also found that you have a well-established grant making process. We've heard this from partners that it's easy to follow. They know what requirements they need to fulfill. They know when they need to report. But we think that with SMART goals and more data walks, those can be better aligned to real measurable community outcomes. And we also think that with more specific goals, it'll be easier to align those grants with your current strategic plan and avoid some of that nuance that can complicate reporting and measurement. And then bringing us to impact measurement, we've talked a lot about RBA, and Megan, I know you guys implemented that halfway through the last strategic plan, and it was a challenge to sort of backfill some of that data. So there's a wonderful opportunity with the new strategic plan to start from scratch and make sure that everything that we create and all of the goals that we collectively come to are aligned with clear measurement criteria so that we can actually report on all of the community outcomes that will come out of them. So again, RBA has been a great foundation, and I think we have an opportunity now to make it great. And also to Dr. Logston's point, which we talked about, really be like illustrative to the partners that you work with, to the community. This is the data we're collecting. This is what we're seeing.
And I would add also that there's an opportunity to balance measuring activities versus outcomes. Because when we talk about the impact that you are, inspired to, it's important to measure activities, obviously, but it is really important to measure outcomes for the organization to really be able to look back and say, this is what we accomplished.
Yep. And then technology. We haven't touched on this so much in our board sessions, but this has come up in some of the document review we've done, some of our conversations with staff. And we think there's a clear opportunity to accelerate your impact with technology. So as we talk about becoming a more data-driven organization, streamlining grant making, technology can play a really key role in making this more systematic, easier for the staff and the board to work through, and easier for grantees also to report and provide you with the data that you need. And we also think, again, with the increased role that you're going to play and increased funding, there's going to need to be a revisiting of some of that technology to make sure that it can support all that increased activity.
Right. And to your point, establishing an AI task force and doing a technology stack audit is we would highly recommend.
Yep.
Which is not going to be addressed in the strategic planning process. So that's why it's, these recommendations are not all things that we're going to tackle on, but we still wanted to put out there as an opportunity.
Yep. And then this is something that we have talked about and that everyone is well aware of, but the organization is growing, and it's imperative that it's prepared to grow in a sustainable way, and that the operational systems, staff capacities, and processes handle this influx of funds coming in. So we're aware through Donna of the RGS HR assessment report that was produced, and there's a few recommendations there that we recommend that you all follow through so that you're in a place that you can really support and thrive in the new environment that you're stepping into. And we think it's also important to think about what increased staffing capacity you'll need to support the new strategic plan. Okay. And then the last one, and I'll pass it on to Billy in a moment, but again, the financial strategy is going to be huge here. You're looking at a very large influx of funds And that's a huge opportunity to be the biggest funder in the Coachella Valley. And it's really important to embed that financial sustainability strategy in the strategic plan. So we'll continue to revisit this, I'm sure, in all of our work sessions, but I'll pass it on to Billy to cover high level some of his findings and some of his recommendations.
Leah,
Yes.
something that you
Yeah.
tied into number 9, because I mean, we're getting the word out that Measure AA passed, $100 million are going to come down the pike in 2027. And it's amazing the grant applications that are being worked on and or have come in. Because, well, all this money is coming in, so now, yeah, we're going to apply for it. But if you tie it into how we're actually going to spend it and what our priorities are and our goals are tying into that brand recognition, I think that would be.
Yeah.
I would also comment that has pluses and minuses. That comes with a lot of opportunity. It's going to come with a lot of scrutiny. No way around that, right? If you are leaders in the space as you are, and you are looking to increase that leadership position, that's going to put more scrutiny, more eyes are going to be on you, more criticism sometimes, and that's something to be very, very mindful.
But that's where this plays in, this is sustainability aspect of it too.
Exactly.
Because we can't have the community thinking that every year that $100 million comes in, that we're going to spend all that.
Right.
That's a huge concern.
A lot though, right?
And you can be kind of nickel and dimed away from all that money with no bigger vision and goal.
Exactly.
That's why the pillars- so
strategy.
That's why the pillars are so important, because otherwise you get into a situation where you have $100 million coming in and 100 or 2,000 organizations coming in, and then it's death by 1,000 cuts.
So I agree with Dr. Longston when we think about having a big vision. If you have that big vision and we all know that that big vision is going to cost 200 million, that is right there. It takes a big chunk of that money that when you think, oh, we're going to have a whole bunch of money. Well, not if you have a big vision and you know that that vision is going to take a lot of investment to actually make it happen. The only thing I want to mention besides that is on 8, 9, and 10. I agree with it, but I feel like if like I have to say that the healthcare district has had a long history, a strong history in the Western Coachella Valley. And it is not the same on the Eastern Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
It is harder to connect. It is harder to be able to have that awareness, to apply for the funding, to do a lot more things. So 8, 9, and 10, it seems to, I just see a very strong West Valley. Okay, so that's what I need to say.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And that's definitely something we picked up in all of our conversations. And I think with the community engagement sessions, and we'll talk a bit about what we're looking to do, but hopefully that's a preliminary opportunity to try and achieve some of these goals with those East Valley nonprofits and residents. Okay, Billy, over to you.
Thanks, Leah. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of our analysis on again through the lens of financial sustainability and impact of the Desert Healthcare District and Foundation's overall financials. So, and I certainly welcome any clarifying questions afterwards, and also just in any form of follow-up. But I just want to start by highlighting that, number one, as part of our discovery process, we reviewed the district and foundation's current financials, as well as its long-term outlook, specifically through this lens of maximizing and sustaining impact of your efforts. And I will also just say we benefited from the unending and incredible support of your staff, who have just such both a exhaustive knowledge, but also a responsiveness and a collaborative spirit that is just so indicative of the potential and existing impact that you all have achieved. So after looking at these fundamentals, the bottom line is that the district is in a really strong position to meet the moment and maximize its impact. on the health and well-being of residents. Number one, it benefits from having no outstanding debts on either the foundation or the district side, which is again just a laudable achievement and a testament to really strong management. It also has diversified revenue streams, and this is specifically thinking through, and we'll talk about this later, but the through the lens of what dollars could potentially be deployed for purposes of achieving the overall strategic objectives of the district and foundation. So this is really thinking specifically about three streams that we'll be talking about, namely the tenant lease revenue, but also obviously the anchor tax revenue and other funds that may potentially be available. So having multiple revenue streams offers a unique opportunity and also just a nod towards sustainability. It also, again, to that point, you have a hybrid structure where you have the benefit of an existing foundation infrastructure and the existing district, which I know sort of leads to strategic questions that are really important, but also opens up many opportunities in terms of thinking about how that structure can evolve and which structures to prioritize or deprioritize or leverage or not leverage based on the approach that you want to ultimately take. And then so just like as a baseline, kudos to you and your team, and just the incredible work that you've done is laudable, especially when benchmarking against other health districts that may not have had as favorable of outcomes in recent memory. So we'll go to the next slide, please. With that said, I would just say that each revenue stream kind of comes with its own set of questions and compliance requirements, which we, over the next few months, we're going to really seek to understand. The property tax revenue has clearly the potential to grow, but also depending on the property tax base within the region, it has the potential to contract, as has occurred in the past. And simultaneously, we want to have a really granular understanding, and this goes across the board, of the appropriate applications of each of those, complying with the relevant laws, complying with every sort of nuanced regulation, so that, again, we're making sure that every dollar is being used in a transparent, high impact, and just aligned way. The lease revenue, similarly, we need to understand there are some obviously incredible potentials with the amount, and it's overwhelming just the dollar amount itself, but there are non-compete provisions that need to be considered, and the potential applications. So again, understanding at a very granular level the different pathways, the highest and best use of those funds. And then even additionally, there is this tranche of investment funds, which are primarily bonds, but even additional accounts as well, that they were allocated for the purposes or reserved for the purposes of seismic compliance on the hospital, which may or may not be applicable anymore. So it is just, if you were to tell any strategic consultant that is in the social space, you're going to be working with an organization that has no debt and has hundreds of millions of dollars, and potentially also an additional 73 million or so that is available for purposes of impact. That is what we dream of, and why we're so excited to be doing this work alongside just the incredible needs that you have. But these are just, you're in such a strong position. It is really unique, and it anchors the work that's being done, and it is a testament to your staff, and your all of your collaboration. So now we can go to the next slide. Just the key thing is we're really we're coming from a strong position, but that is not the benchmark against which we're holding is not against sort of some arbitrary measure of quality. We are actually hoping for, how are we going to truly maximize this? How are we going to make sure that the dollars are used in a way that has the greatest impact on the highest needs and the widest number of individuals, and then simultaneously that these funds live on well beyond any of our lifetimes, and are really able to leave a mark and leave a legacy for the district and foundation. And so the key things for us is the benefit is that we have many lenses through which we are going to look at every structure that sort of sustainability architecture that we're going to build, to see what are the potential vulnerabilities, what are the ways in which, what are the things we need to consider that are going to strengthen the overall end product of what we build together. And so this is just a preliminary list, political, legal, operational, financial impact, and measurability. These are all just any structure, any suite of structures that we propose are going to pass these tests. They may vary in terms of which are prioritized or deprioritized or higher risk or lower risk, but we're going to make sure that as a baseline, we've considered all of these. We're also going to expand the dimensions of sustainability to reflect the unique priorities that the district and foundation have. And then most importantly, the next step of this will be sort of considering and trying on for size the individual options, and not for purposes of actually deciding on this is how we're going to go, but really it's about kind of pressure testing and seeing whether or not a specific approach seems like it might be a good fit given the sort of the strategy that is going to evolve. And the last point that I would make is that, of course, we all know that strategy is going to dictate structure, but also structure can help dictate strategy. So you don't know the opportunities that can emerge from having a dynamic structure that's really oriented on sure financial footing and really strong impact orientation in terms of 5, 10, 15 years from now. So I am always available for questions, but I will also hand off to the next slide.
All right, any questions before we move on?
My only comment is how when we expanded the healthcare district to the East Valley, the funding didn't accompany it for the residents and the programs that we've done in the East Valley. And we did a survey of the residents in the East Valley to see if they would be willing to pay a very minor part of their tax base to support district programs. We gave examples like freestanding hospital out in certain areas or free clinics in the area, and we got a positive response. I don't know if that's appropriate at this point in time, but I know that politically having people's tax dollars in the West County and none in the East County might be an issue in the future. It's something we might look at. Just
It's a good
pointing
point.
that out.
I think that all follow.
Just for clarification, though, that the East Valley residents are paying a tax, it's just not being captured for the healthcare district.
And
Yeah.
that won't happen at the county.
Yeah.
It would have to be an assessment.
It would have to be an assessment,
Just to make
right?
sure that we.
It can be on the
Thank
strategic
you,
plan,
Lynn.
because if the east continues to grow at some point.
Which it will, it's gonna be assessed.
Oh, it's-
first.
So we already know that, so I think that should factor in. You know, what I'd like to see from you guys is really a better financial overall assessment of where we are. I mean, you know, Eric and Chris are, you know, very well-trained accountants. They have a very good handle on our finances, but, you know, we need a lot more vision around, I mean, you're running a small private equity firm here, you know, and I want to see somebody from your side who has some type of financial experience at that level. I mean, you're talking near over $500 million here that can be invested. This isn't just, you know, let's go have some, you know, really good effort, try to make it happen. No, I mean, you have the chance to really impact a community to set the stage for like how you can deliver care affordably and effectively here. And so you guys have to bring somebody who actually has like a good financial background and assess what's actually coming in here if you want to really help us in the strategic plan. Like generalities on finances, like this was great, but like that doesn't help. Like we need somebody who understands how do you effectively invest, $500 million in a small community. Go ahead.
No, finish, please.
You got it, Hannah. I got you fired up. Let's hear from you. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
No, and
No.
And if we think about the scope that we approved for the RFP was to have a financial component that would kind of overlay what the strategic goals in that are. So then that we can, because we'll ultimately go out for an RFP for investment firms to invest the funds, but the scope of at least what we have right now, unless we're intending to modify it, is to have like an overarching cash outlay for what our strategic goals are. And then we'll do the investment firm to invest according to that.
I'm not talking about hiring a hedge fund manager. I'm talking about really identifying the buckets of money that you're putting out there for, strategic capital investments, long-term holding assets, something that's producing more relevant cash flow. Is it bonds? Like that has to come into this conversation to be at all relevant with our discussion, because every decision we make is all financial at the end of the day. It's all based on what you got in the bucket. If you got money in the bucket, you can choose how to do it. And if we do it right, the money is going to replenish in the bucket faster than we're taking it out, which is the end goal. I mean, I've run numbers myself. It can be highly effective to where you can almost deliver not quite free healthcare to the majority of residents, but you could pretty much cover premiums for the majority of people here if you do this right with minimal return on your investment. Like it's very possible with the numbers that we're talking about. So we need somebody, not just somebody to come in and say, hey, put your money in the bonds that we can do, but really like, how do you invest this in an effective way? And Arthur can speak to this much more eloquently than I. He has much more skill set in this than I do. But we need that from you guys to factor in on the finance side. It can't be generalities. It needs to be like, how do you effectively invest this money? And we can't tell you because none of us here are, big time money managers, but I think that really should be a big component of this, because we're talking about large sums of money that if you don't do it right can quickly drain away. As you see at every city level, as you see at Palo Verde Hospital, it's very easy to do it because if you don't set the plan now, the minute the board changes, you elect new people and you don't have that strategy in place of where the money goes, it's going to leak. And I think we have the opportunity to do it right now. We've all been very excited about that. Every time we start to talk about the money, everybody's like, yeah, these are the things we can invest in. These are the things we can do.
Perhaps Billy could give more information on.
But I mean, has he got an MBA? Is this his area of expertise?
So I have just to clarify, I have a master's in public policy from Harvard University. I have a career. I have an extensive background in what's called pay for success financing and social impact bond financing. I actually successfully launched a privately funded, publicly operated, and ultimately sustained social impact bond approach. It's called it's an outcomes-based evergreen grant in which essentially we leveraged private capital for purposes of expanding and sustaining high quality, high impact preventative interventions. So it's something that I take your comment incredibly with great appreciation, because we need that energy and we need that. But I will say, to the extent that that anything can be done in this domain, this team is more than equipped to provide that support, especially at this stage. I see from your background, you're a cardiothoracic surgeon. And so what I would say is that we're at the GP stage right now. We have an internist with a patient coming in. We're not going to directly send them to a cardiothoracic surgeon. We have a scenario planning activity where in the report that I provided, I've given multiple options that pressure test those different structures, which then could form the basis of, if you can see, different structures that would allow us to ask the question, does the district view itself as the highest and best use of its resources to create an endowment, for example, which then an endowment is pooled funds placed in an investment account on which returns are drawn and then deployed for that impact capital, that's when we would be discussing something like what is the investment spread, what is the asset spread. But in terms of something of comparing it to like a private equity firm, I completely understand that we're dealing with astronomical sums of money and an enormously important mission. But simultaneously, it doesn't appear that the district is going to be partaking in leveraged buyouts. It doesn't appear that the historical appetite for leveraged debt or anything like that is within its purview. So I would say give us a few months to really understand responsibly the directionality of where you want to go. And then we'll build a much more complicated approach that will draw upon much more specialized expertise in the long term.
Good.
If I might,
Does that answer your
if I might
question?
interject from a legal standpoint, the endowment, we looked at this a number of years ago, and that may be something that we need to take serious consideration of. But understand something so that we don't all end up in jail. The investment of surplus funds is very regulated in California, and we have to be very careful. We can't, I agree, it's not my, if it was my personal portfolio, and depending upon my age, I might be more aggressive. But we are really, everybody has to understand we're really restricted in that regard. So, I mean, and I think what, Billy's talking about here are some really good ideas, and we need to absolutely explore those, but we need to keep in mind that we have, very regulated policies with respect to our investments. That's number one. Number two, I really appreciate how this is going tonight, and the discussion tonight is really good. From a legal perspective, I can't emphasize enough how important it is that the district have a vibrant and comprehensive strategic plan. Almost every decade since the Reagan administration, the state legislature has appointed a little Hoover Commission to investigate special districts and whatever their reserves are and all this kind of stuff. And I think that in recent years that the focus has centered on, and when the little Hoover Commission last looked at this, one of the major focuses was centered on healthcare districts who no longer have operate their hospitals. And I'll send this group, everybody, a copy of the 2017 Little Hoover Commission report. And in that report, there's a section where they looked at whether districts without hospitals are relevant and should be dissolved. And whether or not, there's some would say we'd simply transfer these resources to the county. Or two, which I think was very important, and we were part of this commission report in 2017, the district was, whether districts alternatively, given the uncertainties that we face in long-term healthcare, that many of the healthcare districts without hospitals are carving out a new role in preventive care and addressing the local unmet healthcare needs of their community, which includes obviously access to healthcare and all these other things. But we've got to be. I just think in the background, you've got to be very conscious about the fact that we will be accumulating of substantial dollars, and with the restrictions and deficits that all of the local counties and cities have, there's going to be, we need to be really careful and emphasize our strategic plan. And I think, by this exercise, you're doing that. So that
And just to echo that, I really appreciate that comment. And I will just also refer back to the slide with the 6 squares. What you just did is articulate the reason why we're using an abundance of caution and looking at these and saying, wait a second, where could each of these options go wrong before we go down a rabbit hole, and recognize that then we're going to be in the headlines for something other than the massive impact that we aspire to. And that is unfortunately something that has happened more than other districts might want to admit. And so the key thing is, I draw such inspiration from the sort of real fiduciary responsibility with which the dollars thus far have been deployed, and you can see the meticulousness of that approach, recognizing that there is just a huge amount of money coming. But that being said, these are not private philanthropic endowment dollars. I was a former program officer at a grant maker and impact investor, where it was largely it sort of was situated within a family office. Those dollars have vastly more flexibility than any dollar coming from a public entity. And so I would just say that we want to have that ambition. We want to have that expectation that every single dollar is going to be used to maximum impact and also to minimum risk. And so that's what we're going for right now. And we're really looking forward to talking with everyone and understanding kind of what form that will take. And we'll draw from this discussion as well as future ones, and we'll have fun doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think my whole point was to just push on to you guys to really bring in that component. Don't dabble in it, like really get aggressive about the financial stuff. And I know it's going to take months to do it. It wasn't trying to call somebody out and say they're not qualified or anything, but it's really help us focus on that, because that is an area that we don't have a lot of strength in, that we need to bring in external support for the government.
And I think I just want to echo what Chris said. I think that there is also, we need to be aware of the scope of work and what we can do and what another entity could do later in the process. So I think it's just good to have these open conversations, because I don't think we're an investment firm and we're not, we would not apply to answer the next RFP.
I'm not asking.
So I think it's really.
We need to think, all those ideas need to be brought to the table and run through the appropriate political and legal frameworks to see, because this is people's tax dollars. I mean, they invested in a hospital decades ago. We finally capitalized on that and sold it. Now, what are you going to do with it, right? We have to be responsible.
The way I see it is that we hired you because you're qualified. You're going to lead us through this exercise. You recognize that number 14, financial strategy, is one of the key areas.
Yeah.
And he showed us 3 of his possible ideas. We all agree that all 3 of those areas have merit, and maybe there's more. I think what threw him off, and maybe some of us, is the fact that Billy is in a sweatshirt, and that kind of like threw us off. But that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, Billy.
First and foremost, no. Yeah, let me be the first to apologize. Let me be the first. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe next time he can wear his cap.
Yeah, cap and gown next time with that.
As he's completing his doctorate.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm going to be finishing my PhD in May. I will gladly have the meeting overlap.
So I first of all, I want to applaud everybody and I want to encourage you. Thank you so much for the open discussion. That is what we're asking for. So thank you. That's the first thing I want to say. And I want to say a big thank you to Billy, because I also want to acknowledge that, he's not in the room, so it's hard to read the energy here. And so Billy, thank you for participating in a difficult conversation. Sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't had any trouble reading the energy, Sophie. Thank you so much. No, I can tell there's a very passionate group of people, and again, I apologize for the sweatshirt. It is, of course.
Okay.
No, the Desert Health District is only deserving of button downs and polo shirts from now on.
Yep, but Billy, just remember, you're an expert because you're from out of town. Okay.
Billy, next time you're here, we're going to take you to the Tommy Bahamas shop.
Is PacSun still a thing? No.
So this concludes basically the discovery phase. Checking, everybody happy, okay? Do we have everybody along as we go through this process? That's the most important part. Yes? Yes, okay. So let's talk very quickly about what's next so we can ground you in the process, and then let's just jump into this first workshop because that's going to be entertaining as well. Go ahead.
Okay, great. I'll just run through this because I know we've alluded to it throughout the discussion, but we've wrapped up the discovery phase. So we're currently in phase 1 of strategic planning. Once that wraps, likely end of January, early February, we'll move on to the community engagement sessions. Then we'll go into the second phase of strategic planning, which is finalizing it, and then we'll present and deliver. And then we'll work with you, obviously, to make sure that you can implement it and that everything runs smoothly. So the next things that you can look forward to this November trip, we're about to jump into the True North workshop. Tomorrow, Angelica will be running a determinants of health workshop. When we come back in December, we'll start to identify and narrow those strategic pillars. And then we'll also begin the process of creating those SMART goals to align with the pillars. And then what are the key initiatives to execute on those SMART goals? We're also going to do a workshop to define the roles and responsibilities of the district and foundation. And then, as Sophie mentioned, have already begun meeting with the staff to think about how we're going to put these community engagement sessions together. We have another meeting tomorrow. We'll lean on you heavily to help us organize within your respective zones. But just to reiterate the commitment that we made, we'll be doing 1 community session per district. And we will also have opportunities for asynchronous inputs, whether that's surveys, video inputs, text inputs, emails, and then we'll also do a virtual option for anyone that can't make it. So that's what you can look to in the next few months. Any
And we
questions?
would love your participation in the
Yes.
community sessions whenever possible.
So these community meetings, do you also have plans to have focus groups? Or no?
No, the 2 things we were thinking was community sessions and doing a survey. So we would have both qualitative and quantitative approaches to mirror what we've been doing so far.
But we could do a focus group if that's something you wanted to add
Well,
on.
I was just thinking about some of these subject matter experts, like a school district, the hospitals, FQHCs. But I guess we have to just make sure that they're part of that process.
Exactly. So that's what we were thinking, right, Alejandro and Megan, to have as many. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're putting a list of key stakeholders that we think would add to the conversation of all these community forums and invite them.
And you've done some of that in the discovery anyway, haven't you? I mean,
We've met individually with
Yeah.
organizations just to, begin to build that
they
relationship.
do like bringing them together.
Yeah.
on that.
But this is like bringing them together, and this includes both the residents and the partners and some of the grantees.
Yeah, and we're drawing on the stakeholder exercise we did where we identified who those key external stakeholders are and named out some of them. So again, that's part of who we're drawing on, and it'll be up to the organization to determine what the correct balance is. But yes, to your point, we want to be as inclusive as possible.
What I would suggest is when we have that list to run it by everybody, and if anybody thinks of individuals or organizations that need to be represented or included, or additional sessions that need to be had to make sure that we capture the right voice of the right people, then.
Did we include any financial incentives in that? Because I know
Yes,
that.
that is included. Language translation is included. All of we can share with you. I mean, that's one step further, but we are including all of the principles that we shared with you in the RFP process. So it's equitable, it's collaborative, it's the voices that have not been heard in the past will be, and really making sure there's no barriers to participation.
And I think it would also be, good for individual board members to be part of that process and also
Mhm.
extend the invitation out to some of those key stakeholders that you think should be part of the conversation in these community
Exactly.
forums. So they, receive the invitation directly from you and staff, so then increases their likelihood of participation in these community forums.
Question.
The community forums have already been set, the date, location, and time.
We're working on that.
No, we're working on that.
Hello.
Go ahead, Art.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Is anywhere in this comprehensive schedule, is there any room for insinuating or injecting healthcare futurists and their perspective on things?
wants people that are thinking about, we've talked about it a bunch. He's brought it up a bunch and it's well taken, but I think he wants to talk about people that are thinking, what does healthcare look like in 30 years? What is the technology that's there? What does the delivery of care look like? So having somebody who's casting a vision about not what we're currently doing, but where it's going.
That's what I'm asking.
Yep.
Is there,
That's what he
is there,
said.
room-
He
is there room for that and where and when?
I think that we've identified who the key stakeholders are and we value all of your opinions. And so we welcome all of the perspectives that you want to bring in. But
What I would say is
Academia.
there are specific.
I'm asking a different,
Yeah.
I'm asking,
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm asking a completely different question. You're ducking the question. The question is there room for the injection of a futurist thought process anywhere in this continuum?
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
there's definitely, you can always put that in. And I would say that the earlier, the better.
Okay. Very
Are
good.
you asking them to find one, Arthur?
I'm sorry?
Are you requesting that maybe they spend a little bit of time and look at who's out there talking about it? I mean, I know TEDmed is.
That would be very helpful, you know, I think that what's going on in that discipline is something that cannot be ignored. It needs to be listened to, it needs to be discounted, it needs to be absorbed, and then we need to move on. We may not need to act on it, but I think it needs to be part of it needs to be part of the DNA of our program.
So can I just ask that you give us a little bit more information on what you mean by that? I mean, healthcare is incredibly broad. We just finished a project with
Let me give you a very good example.
Okay, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, Jeffrey's the oldest dude in the place besides me. We grew up with Dick Tracy watches. Today, Dick Tracy watches are obsolete. Today, every single person, including the bum who's standing on the corner soliciting money, has a cell phone. Today, if you look at where Samsung and Apple are going with the components of their watches, they're beginning to get involved in diagnostic measurement of healthcare parameters. Look at that trend. That trend is not insignificant. So imagine if someone who knows more than me, because I am not suggesting that I know where it's going. Imagine if the evolution of that process materializes in a way that everybody who has a cell phone is now clinically being managed for potential issues. The whole paradigm of how you deliver healthcare changes. So from my perspective, I'd like to see somebody who's intelligent about the trend line of where things are going so that we don't miss the Dick Tracy stage of the generation that's 20 years out from now. That's all.
I think you make a very good point. I still think it's a very broad request.
It's very broad. It's very broad and it's very basic, ambiguous. You're absolutely right. But I don't think it can be, all I'm saying is, I just don't think it can be ignored. That's all.
Dr.
I
Lodge,
think
you have
maybe-
a point about TED Talk?
Well, I was just going to suggest there's a couple of resources where you can find some of these futurists that go out and talk. One is, I think, TEDmed was something that was started by the guy that founded Expedia. And anyways, he hosted it for a while. They shut down with COVID, but I attended almost all of those. And there's some really good futurists that talk about healthcare there.
Look, every major university has a Department of Future Science now.
I think
No, absolutely.
I think
I mean, you have
Stanford
one.
has some,
So
yeah.
I mean, the resources are there. It's just a question of finding the correct ones for our needs, if you will. And it can be done secondary to all that's going on now. I'm not trying to change the thrust of what you folks are doing. I think you're doing a great job in terms of getting this thing moving in this direction. I just think it needs to be in the back of people's minds. That's all.
Yeah.
So I think I completely agree. I think the appropriate place to consider it and think about where that fits into the strategic plan specifically, and specifically the next 5 years of activities with the 10 to 15-year vision is in the technology component
Yeah.
of the strategy. So if you have any suggestions, Dr. Sorry, my contacts are.
You're fine, Dan works.
Doctor, if you have any suggestions on specific individuals, that's great. Otherwise, we will definitely
I'll send you
look
two
around.
options. I'd either go to prior TED Med faculty or I'd go to Stanford Medicine. They have a health
Yes.
futures program and I would just, and I know a lot of the guys up there don't necessarily run the program, but a lot of the physicians there. So, you know, you may not want a physician. It may be somebody who works in
I'm actually thinking public health.
tech. Yeah, I think health policy, public health, even health tech. I think health tech probably knows more about what's going on. And there's some really good health tech companies that I've worked with. And their leaders understand not just the policy and delivery of care, but really like how do you go impact it. And so I think
That would be helpful. Obviously, Director Shore, if you have anybody on your end.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm too old for that. My credentials have aged, but in any event, I'm glad you're incorporating the thought process, and I'm sure Dr. Hodson, knowledge base and direction will suffice.
And I just want to say, it's also, we need to make sure that we understand the scope of this, you know, so I'm hearing top 10 health and tech trends that, you know, you should be considering, because that would be helpful to the team. I just want to make sure that it's helpful. You know, you can go deep into a lot of these different things. Just
Right.
AI and health right now
It's incredible.
is
You're absolutely
incredibly
right.
broad.
I think it's
Look.
somebody just, go ahead, Arthur.
Look, that's your job to make sure it stays in its proper dimension. Enough said.
Okay.
All right, we'll throw some ideas back at
You
you.
can bounce a few ideas.
Yeah.
But I
Sounds
think
good.
I think there's plenty of people that can tell you what they think 20 years is going to look like in healthcare and how it's going to impact change. Right?
That's
All right.
not
Yeah,
that's
sounds
not the
good.
question. The
And-
question is then how do we take that information and make it relevant?
Relevant to
It's-
I think it's an educational component though, because not everybody here works. I mean, I could give you the talk now because we're working on it. We're using AI. We're doing it. But I think because not all the board works directly in healthcare, I think part of it is, and Arthur's worked at Cedars and he's been in the healthcare side. So I think part of it is also helping the board understand like what is healthcare, where is healthcare going? Because they don't work in it every day. And so I think it's mostly just educational to help kind of reframe the pillars and what goes underneath those.
And I'm hearing you say also that it's, you know, the delivery of care, healthcare reform, healthcare, you know.
Look, he's doing it now. Nobody's talking about it. You're doing delivery of care in a different way. You're bringing it to the people and it's costing a lot less money. And you're getting that, like, that's what I'm telling you, like that's a future of healthcare. And nobody's really doing it. So I mean, we're doing things like that, but I think having somebody who also has that and can kind of cast that vision so that when we go to put in all those strategies for the strategic plan, I think the rest of the board is
Yep.
educated on what's out there.
We'll come back to you with some suggestions.
I have a few too. so.
And Art, you'd be happy to know that my Apple Watch says I do not have AFib. You're supposed to laugh, you guys.
I'll laugh on that side. Sure.
Okay. Should we take a quick break? Are we good? Should we move on? How are we feeling?
2 minute, 5
It's
minute
fine.
break?
I may have to run.
5 minute
but yeah.
break? Okay. Yeah, with that silly joke, we'll have to move on.
I smiled here. I got.
What's your time frame?
vision and mission was to flip them, because
Right.
really that's what, that's, one was one and one was the other. And I think we have agreement that that was an okay thing to do. Everybody is still in agreement with that. Fantastic. The second thing we need to look at is your key values, and I want to make sure that everybody is familiar with these, because one of the things that we had evidenced before is sometimes we're not all familiar with all the same information. Is everybody familiar with the key values of the organization as they stand today? Yes, okay. One of the things that we would recommend, which is funny, well, not funny, but very linked to our last conversation, is that we include a key value related to fiscal stewardship somewhere in there, because that is an incredibly important thing. We don't need to.
Equity also.
I think equity
Yeah, it's in your mission and it's not in the key value.
in your key
So
values,
in one or the other, definitely.
one or the other. So
I
that will
think
be
we thought, I'm sorry, I think because we discussed it, we thought it was important enough to have in the mission statement.
Perfect.
got it.
I
Okay.
kind of remembered that, but thank you for reminding.
So let's start the work. And so let me start by saying 100% agreement and 100% satisfaction is not going to happen, or is very unlikely. So it's always important to set expectations when we do these workshops. 70% of people are happy and on board. That's a pretty good result. We just need to make sure that we have a North Star that everybody can work towards. Okay. So what we currently have for the vision is to achieve optimal health at all stages of life for all district residents. So the question I want everybody to think about is, if you are wildly successful 10 years from now, what would your community look like because of your efforts? Does this vision statement reflect that outcome?
I think having medically underserved areas in our valley come to know medically underserved areas in our valley in 10 years or 5 years, if that's something doable, and is that something that's a vision?
So I guess my question back to you is, do you feel that if you have achieved optimal health at all stages of life for all districts residents, that that would be encompassed? And I think the answer would be yes.
Yes.
I think the only thing I would think about is that to achieve it or to have the opportunity to have optimal health. Because I think there's a difference there.
There is. And it's, so the question back is, if you are successful in your vision of the world, of the vision of the Coachella Valley, would it be to have access or to achieve it?
I think I get what you're saying, that to have access is kind of lesser than to actually achieve it. But
Whether it's.
So, and also, let me just reiterate that achieving it is a way of achieving the mission. So that's the vision. So that's a mission. So how you're going to do that is you're going to give them access. But the vision is still, another way of putting it is a healthy life for every Coachella Valley resident. That's, when we've thrown around ideas internally, that's what we're like, okay, what is the broadest, boldest vision that you can have for this organization? And it's really a healthy life for every Coachella
also,
resident.
the way I'm thinking it is, if a child is born into this community, that they have the system in place that, and I understand about having optimal health and during every stage, but do they have the, when I think about the social determinants of health, that's, I'm not sure if I see that as strong in there, in that statement.
So that's why I would offer, again, a healthy life is, attempts to encompass a broader
And
definition.
I'm only picking holes at it just because I think it's fine, but I'm just picking holes out of trying to see it from every different perspective.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really good. That's a really good. And
Does encompass everything because it's saying at all ages.
Yeah.
So not just health stages, right? Because we all know that it's not just about health, right? It's about the social determinant, the other things that affect it. So that's how I'm looking at it. Like it is, like a whole person care, right? The problem of helping with everything that we do. And I think that it does say what we wanted to say, but
Because I think to your point, like about like if a child is born, we will have an optimal health system that would include the facilities and the care that that child would need.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So I guess that does take that into.
Yeah. I think
Okay,
I think
okay,
it
yeah.
matches you.
so can we confirm with everybody that this current vision
yes.
hits it? And can we have from the staff, the feelings of whether this is inspiring? I mean, at the end of the day, this not only, it guides the whole organization to inspire and, you know, it's like, it's a reflection of why everybody shows up. And Ori was saying, everybody shows up late at night, tired to these meetings, right? Because you're all so passionate about the work that you're doing. So this vision statement really needs to be able to pull you all together in that direction because it is meaningful and gets you out of bed. So can we just get from around the room that that is the case? Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Fantastic. Let's move on to the mission. So the mission current statement is equitably connecting Coachella Valley residents to health and wellness services and programs through philanthropy, health facilities, information, and community education and public policy. So one of the things I really want everybody to think about here are two questions. Does this reflect the few things, emphasis on few things we must do exceptionally well to realize our vision and our purpose? And the second is this what we promise? Can we blow it up a little bit, Leah, because it's hard to see the visions. Thank you so much. So again, if there are very few things that you must do exceptionally well to deliver on this vision, I would love everybody's thoughts on potential maybe reduction, changes to the mission statement, or if everybody feels like we should keep it this way.
I think it's really wordy, but I like that it offers like the multiple pathways that we provide because we just do so many. So it's talking about the community education, the accessible information, the health facilities, and all the things. I do feel like it needs to be cut back, but somehow still integrating some like the multiple pathways that you offer.
What would you cut back?
Right. Which ones would you maybe bring together, or that could be
information and community education?
Yeah. Maybe into just health education?
Those can be two different things.
And also, do we have to have them on there?
I'm sorry.
And also, do we have to have them on there?
You don't have to have anything. But I would just point that those are could be two different things.
And I think
information is making somebody aware that something exists. Education is giving them the knowledge to act against.
So it could also be, one way would be to say, for example, to promote better health for all Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding, partnership building, and efforts to improve community outcomes. So it has a broader, it now allows you to put all of those things, but in a broader things. Can we share, Leah, please? I wanted to share with you guys the Beach Community Health Foundation vision and mission, just to give you an idea. So this is very tight, but it's something to think about, right? Because it's very similar vision, a healthy beach community. So they want a healthy community. And their mission is to optimize health for our beneficiaries through innovative and inclusive programs, partnerships, and spaces. Personally, I think spaces is too vague. And that's not helpful in making decisions, because at the end of the day, this is good, again, a North Star to help you make decisions, important decisions. So some specificity is.
One other thing to know, this is not your action plan. Right? This is not meant to detail, here are the things that we're gonna be doing.
Can you put it back to the other alternative that you had for hours?
Yep. Yeah, these are three that we came up with just to give you a sense of ways to make it a little more succinct.
Can you make that larger? Yeah, is there any way to make the whole thing bigger, Leah? The whole screen is.
Presentation screen is.
Is that better?
Yeah. Okay, so.
Thank you.
The first one.
Me too.
Really, this is the bold actions that you need to take to bring the vision to life.
Because even just utilizing the word efforts, that incorporates all the programming, the grants, education. So what is?
Partnership building, I like that. But I also like public policy.
Public policy be part of efforts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Be under efforts. And
Maybe we
the
can
way I
highlight
make that one
it
better
there
is
coming up
because
as
in
some
architecture, there's that.
Oh, I can do that then.
Consistency. Yeah.
Yeah.
Public policy is different than all the other things that we. So I
Yeah.
think this one is more consistent.
I think the key thing I've always been taught on the mission statement too is that you should be able to know it by heart.
So where would health facilities?
The shorter the better.
Where would health facilities?
Under efforts,
Facilities fall under there.
efforts.
Efforts.
And strategic funding.
Hey, Greg, when I worked at the museum, our executive director used to call us all random. I should say that. He was going to take it for a phone, participate in something.
But even,
Yeah.
but even on the facilities, Christine, could fit under partnership building. If we're partnering with other healthcare providers to build facilities.
What about the second one, though? That one, the second one for me, it's kind of. It's more of what we do. We create outcomes for them by supporting effective programs because that's what our grants are. And we unite partners across the valley to try to achieve our mission, right? What we want to do for the community to make sure that they have access to the health needs and everything.
So, and how about, let's combine first and the second, where it's to improve health, because I don't just want us to promote better health, I actually want us to improve health outcomes.
Yeah.
To promote and improve.
To improve health outcomes for our Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that actually comes to
changing
mind
that? Yeah. Okay. I didn't want
from
to.
this conversation, should it be to understand and improve health outcomes?
I think we understand what the health issues are here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're trying to, yeah.
We all know the needs here. So it's not understanding the needs of what's required. It's really is to improve the health outcomes.
And are we thinking about just being kind of a program funder and connecting partners, or are we actually thinking about kind of being the center hub for all of that? I mean, are we going to be involved in the actual delivery of care? Because to me, that's a very big why point. Like, are you going to be involved in actually delivering care? Are you going to be involved in actually training physicians to come out here? Are you going to be involved in opening up a pediatric center because there's none out here to take care of the kids? Or are you going to try to just fund some other people who might do it? To me, it's a very big distinction in how you write this. Because in one realm, you're going to say, hey, we're going to improve access the delivery, and the quality of care to all Valley residents, right? And the ways you improve the access, that's why access is such a good word, because it's not just how many clinic appointments you have, but it's how many physicians are available and how do they get there, and where you put those things. Are they in their neighborhoods, or do we need to deliver it to them? So access is such a strong word that encompasses that. And then the delivery of care is very important too, because it's like, are we going to be involved in that, or are we just going to kind of be a sidecar and hopefully fund somebody who's going to go do the delivery of care? And then when it comes to, we're talking about residents and how do you build a sustainable pathway to bring in new healthcare providers? One is partnering with nursing programs, which we do, which is huge, right? COD is a very busy nursing program, and it's just turning out nurses, which is great because there's still a shortage, but you still have a big shortage in physicians coming here. Do we want to play a role in that or not? Do we want to be involved in having a facility again? I don't know.
Become a sponsoring.
All those different ideas.
Well, that's sponsoring, but I'm saying, like, I think our mission do we want to limit ourselves in that, or do we want to keep it kind of open and say, yeah,
But
we
the
make.
first one doesn't limit it though.
But what you're saying, I actually see that's incorporated with
Yeah, you
it, like
could have it either
strategic
way.
funding, right? Like, where are we gonna?
But that whether
But
it's
to me, when I
Strategic
think about funding though, I think say, here you go do it. We're going to be your strategic
our money.
funder. But to actually execute it though is different than funding it. It's a completely different structure in how you.
Definitely, it's a huge.
Investment is putting it towards somebody else, but if you're actually going to execute it and do it, it's more than just funding and investing. It's delivering, it's doing that care. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it seems like that could take that into consideration, because we have to start with strategic funding.
We are funded.
Efforts to get to that, and so if you include, if it eventually included delivery of care, that could fall into the efforts, but by calling out strategic funding, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only way we're going about it. It's an element of. So it just seems like it's more of step one through the future, and that way we don't lose the ability to still provide strategic funding, because even if we delivered care, there might still be things we need to outsource to others. We just wouldn't have everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think our funding problem is solved. To me, like, strategic funding comes in when you need to go out and raise money to get things. We don't have to do that. That's not a thing that we have to go do. That goal has been accomplished by the people before us. So yes, we're going to fund other people's missions that align with what we want done in the community.
I think that's a very important distinction that needs to be clarified. Because our understanding was that, you were not in the business of delivering care.
We weren't before because we weren't built for that. We're not structured for that. But if you're talking strategic plan, all those options are on the table.
Yep.
Don't limit yourself to just being a nonprofit funder, which is what we've been doing, but that's because that's the way the board had progressed over time. As Tenet took over the healthcare system in the hospital, the need for an actual governing board of a healthcare facility was absent. And so then it became like trying to find what makes you relevant. Some of it's just funding, but right now I would say our funding is good, our programs are good, but there's not a single entity in the Valley that's leading healthcare delivery. It's not Desert Healthcare Network. It's not Eisenhower. There's not a single organization that really is focused on the overall delivery of care to everybody here. I mean,
What about strategic resource allocation?
It's too long, that fits.
it's good if you think it fits. All right.
It fits.
Deal?
Could,
As long as it fits, I just want to make sure that we're not
strategic funding
limiting.
could be whether we do it ourselves or whether we fund somebody else.
And then the partnership aspect comes into that. Partnership building too also gets to your point down about
correct
partnering like with COD and all that. One thing though is I do like the word access. And I think you can just throw it in like to improve health access and outcomes for all Coachella Valley residents.
That's perfect.
I like that too.
Okay.
So just a note, access doesn't always equate to use. And you can provide services across the board and increase access. It doesn't mean that people will use those services. And the use of the services is what leads to the improvement of the health outcomes, along with quality and so on and so forth. So my only caution with using access is that the access and use needs to be there, because that's what gets us to the improvement of health outcomes.
Yeah, I would challenge that. I would say if you're providing the appropriate access, the use becomes extremely high. If you're making the access.
So I would challenge that because there are multiple settings where, for example, we've offered mobile units and it's high quality access, but if the folks don't trust the people that are offering the units, or they don't have deep connection to the providers that are a part of that healthcare system, then they won't use it. There's a lot of barriers and factors that come into use, but I don't always, I know for a fact that access doesn't equate to use.
We don't necessarily drive use. We can't make you feel comfortable with it. We can provide people that speak your language and are in your community that are, we have a large immigrant population and we go to the farms where they work. Like at some point, the use becomes a personal responsibility and not our responsibility.
To improve health access and outcomes for all Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding, partnership building, and strategies that create a healthier, more resilient Coachella Valley.
Strategic and strategy twice, that doesn't work for me.
Like what you said, Greg. Summarized it. Hopefully somebody wrote it down.
Yeah, he added the word access to that. And that's what.
Is it in the, where is it at?
The first one.
The green part.
Oh.
The green part. So Alejandro, can you just add, remind us what you would add after that? So everybody's happy with to improve health access and outcomes for all Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding, partnership building.
And then use strategies that create a healthier, more resilient Coachella Valley.
The last section of
the last section of the third one.
Okay.
We don't do the Coachella Valley again.
So we take away strategic funding and maybe just make it funding so that we don't use strategy twice.
I don't mind using strategy.
Wait, improve. We don't need to say community outcomes again because that's already set it up there. So through strategic funding, partnership building. Just do those two through strategic funding and partnership building.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep going on.
Right, that
You
works.
can just put an and then
take out efforts that improve it.
Yeah. And just see how that reads. And if you want to put a third thing in there, you can, but we don't need to force it.
The only thing is I kind of
Yeah.
I don't use Coachella Valley twice though.
What was it?
I like the word resilient though.
Resilient.
So do we want to create a resilient
that build resilient communities?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Build resilient.
Building the build.
We don't need to include improved community outcomes. Again.
No.
We already said outcomes above. So get rid of that. You could just end it building and then you want something to say resilient.
What did you say?
That build resilient
Yeah, so
communities.
after strategic funding and partnership building that build
resilient communities.
Because then you're addressing the under or the.
How about creates or develops or develops?
Yeah.
Don't use building yet.
Or create, I think.
That maintains resilient communities. Do you want to develop?
Drive.
Create. Create.
Yeah, my
Create.
syllabus is lacking. It's a Thoris thing. Do it.
All right. To improve health access and outcomes for all Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding and partnerships building that create resilient communities.
This doesn't address the
Well,
question.
to create
Say again, what'd you
resilient
say?
communities.
To
To create.
create.
To create.
What'd you say?
To create.
So this doesn't address the question of whether, I think it's an important question, whether we are funders for other organizations to execute on these things, or
Did you
whether
want
we
to
see,
Share down to the end. Dan?
whether we see ourselves as getting
Is there an
into
outlet there?
actual design and deliveries.
I don't think we have the capacity to be the deliverer of healthcare in the valley. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Not today.
Even $600 million, you can't create a
So
healthcare
you could
delivery.
improve health access, delivery, and outcomes. You can
And
just
so where I read that though is where this possibility that could happen is the strategic funding aspect and the partnership building. So whether or not we strategically fund to fund the whole healthcare delivery ourselves, or we partner with other organizations.
You're giving yourself the flexibility
To do.
Does it give the people after us flexibility? Because I'm also writing this thinking like, there's, when we're gone.
Yeah, I just,
And
you just
even
don't want
if
to
it
be.
doesn't, they can change it too.
Yeah, but you.
Right, but we are trying to do short-term and long-term, right? So,
Yeah,
like,
but.
so that is, you don't do
I
that.
think the things you don't want to get too prescriptive on what is in your mission statement.
Agreed.
So, I really do believe that everything we do now and the things that we're talking about, hopefully wanting to do, are really captured within that, especially through the strategic funding and partnership building. That's my 2 cents, but
Is it too much to get into the weeds if you go back to the health and safety code and what the powers of a healthcare district can and cannot do?
Yes, let's move on.
Okay,
All right, so.
are we in agreement?
Wait, well, let me just do a quick test, and I think I'm keeping things to my 20 minutes. But if not, usually keep me honest. All right, is this succinct and clear to everybody?
yes.
Okay, because it's really important. Alejandro made this point way back when, but it's really important to be able to, or I think it was maybe Will, to communicate it to the community, like, so they know when they read this, it's meaningful to them, is also really important.
So how I read it is,
Every mission's doing it.
so how I read it is, our mission is to improve.
Sorry.
Oh,
Trying to
boy.
make it. So this is the only thing we're looking at.
So just so we are clear, is to improve health access and outcomes to create resilient communities. That's what we're gonna be all about.
Yes.
To improve health access and outcomes. What for? To create resilient communities.
Yeah.
So that's what we want.
But I think it's key to have those two aspects of.
No, I'm okay
Yeah.
with that, but I'm
But
just
that's how
wanna
you're reading it.
understand,
Me too.
like, because maybe residents, like, they might not care about strategic funding or that we're gonna do it through partnership building. They just wanna know what we're gonna do
Right.
and why we're gonna do it. So just so that we're on agreement. So we want to improve health access and outcomes. What for? To create resilient communities?
Yep.
Right.
Agree.
The second question we should all consider is, are they actionable and helpful in guiding our strategic efforts? Do you feel like this is helpful? That you can go back to this and say, this fits? Everybody.
Well, how are we defining a resilient community? That's what I'm like struggling with. What's a resilient community? Resilient to climate, resilient to, because that word is used a lot in the health space. So I'm just trying to.
And I think one that can
How do we?
survive an insult. So something that's resilient can survive an insult. So if you have an economic insult, if you have a natural disaster, if you have a pandemic, God forbid, again, you have, something like that. Like a resilient community can survive an insult from an outward force. And so I think, a healthy community can do that.
And I think resilient, to your point, since we do work now around climate, it is included in that. Housing resiliency in having the houses, mental health resiliency. You're right, it is used a lot, but I think that's what's good about, that's why I like that word so much that you threw out. Because to me, it encompasses a lot of those different things.
A
I love
resilient,
that.
a resilient community is
They can
according
respond
to
to
An
it.
insult?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's what it means to
according
be
to Google,
resilient.
a resilient community is the sustained ability of a community to use its available resources to prepare for, withstand, adapt to, and recover rapidly from adversity, disruptions, natural disasters, economic downturns, and social challenges.
Role of a healthcare district? God, this is where counties and cities and everybody else needs to come in as well, and build up their own cities and their own communities. How can we broadly do that with our?
We got a lot of money.
Because we want to be,
Yeah, but money doesn't last forever.
because we are saying here,
I
we're
said,
focusing
we don't know
Coachella
what's
Valley,
direction
and
we're
we're
going.
focusing on
Nine
health
cities in the
access and
Coachella Valley
outcomes.
as well. If you're gonna build resilient communities, you've got 9 cities plus the outlying areas, and who determines how they become resilient? It's our board?
How are we gonna measure it?
The 3 parts of it here that like Kimberly was saying, you pull out things that resonate with you. And to me, it's health access, Coachella Valley, and resilient communities. And what we have talked about before is that any philanthropist could say, we're going to provide resources to help improve our communities. We can give money, we can provide resources, but we're a healthcare district. We should be the premier. We should be able to have a higher aspirations, because we actually could bring about the cities and the school districts and be the convener and to be the funder, to be strategically.
I think that's a partnership.
Yeah, so that's,
Because I agree with you. Counties and cities need to step up. There are ways to measure this too, through HPI scores.
There are.
We have 2 blue zone initiatives going on in the valley right now. So I think I agree 100% with you. I think that's where the whole partnership building comes in.
But not everybody attends those meetings, not everybody gives information to those places. There are certain people that don't have time.
Yeah.
Can't go to those meetings, or, I mean, they're basically trying to figure out whether I feed my family or I go to a meeting, you know? And it's like, we can't assume that those outcomes or those measurable things that you're saying are actually accurate
but that's
based on
what,
the community that we
what
have.
that person was saying, sorry her name, she said access and actually use, your point, making that point. Is that, yeah, we can build it, but are they actually gonna be able to sacrifice a day from work to go to the clinic? You
Not
know?
only that, but are they gonna know how to advocate for their own health? I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of our community members don't know in which way they can advocate for themselves to be able to receive the care that they need. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, it's just like, we automatically assume that everybody knows. You know, a lot of people in our culture also, they go to the doctor and they're like, okay, well, that's what the doctor said, that's what we're gonna do.
So
You know,
health
you don't
access, you support Promotoras program. Health access is you are investing in residents that are going to be culturally competent. You're investing in urgent care centers that are providing non-traditional business hours. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is to, to improve the access, to make it more possible for residents to actually have more places.
And can I add, and I think that's a lot of that, what you're saying would fit under the action steps.
Exactly. I was just about to say.
Within the strategic plan, on what are some of the initiatives we can do to educate people on how to know more about their health and more to go. I just don't think that fits in the mission statement, but
And how are we gonna do those things? By creating partnerships, right?
Right.
With the people. So where does that, I mean, maybe I'm just dumb and I don't understand,
You're not
but
dumb.
where does that say in the first part?
It's in
that
the
we're
partnership building.
And that will be definitely captured in the initiatives. You know, if you look back to the pyramid, we're still at this top 2. And what we're making sure is that this mission statement is broad enough, but clear enough so that it could fit the strategic pillars and then the key initiatives underneath it. That's actually, you jumped to the next thing, which is this statement broad enough and flexible enough to accommodate the current needs of the community and future needs of the community?
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, just like the person was questioning us of whether, are you sure about using this word? You're the experts on creating vision and mission statements, and we're the experts of our community.
Yeah.
So is this okay?
Well, so so again, it's like we co-design, we don't tell you what to do because you are the experts. So what our guidelines are, does this in a succinct way represent what the district promises its residents? That's the litmus test. And does everybody understand every single meaning of every word? Because every word should be in there because it has a purpose. That's another litmus test of a good strategic statement. It's not a word salad, and I think we've made huge progress to making this a much more succinct statement.
Speaking of words, I keep getting hung up on the word create. I mean, are we creating resilient communities, or are we enhancing them or expanding resilient communities? Because there may be some resiliency already out there that we're wanting to expand on versus, to me, it makes it sound like they don't even exist. And so we're creating the resilient communities.
That's a good point. I mean, do they exist? Do we have resilient communities?
They exist through different measures. it's not just about one thing, you know, like teaching your
So maybe
community how to
promoting?
advocate for themselves.
Or
like a
advancing.
That's
Advancing.
creating resilience.
Yeah, so
Yes, if you wanna be in the sidecar, you wanna be in the driver's seat. People that create are in the driver's seat. People that enhance are in the sidecar. No offense to consultants. Consultants are enhancing. They're not, necessarily creating. Like, what do you want the vision here to be?
So Dan, what about advancing though? Is that you're still in the driver's seat?
You can definitely do. I just think, I really want to understand from the board, like, are we taking a driver's seat in care in the community, or are we just assisting?
I want to be a driver.
Well, you can do both, but you can always assist. But if you're going to be in the driver's seat, it's a different capacity level that you need to do that. You can assist at it. If you drive, you can always assist, right? But if you're going to just assist, it's a different staffing model. It's a different structure that you project to the community about how you will participate in care delivery or care access. So for me, it's a big distinguishing.
Yeah, when you're saying that, something that I was coming back, because I still like the efforts element. And so if you're talking about not knowing where that's going and you want the ability to capture it widely, I would just throw out as a potential, after partnership building, instead of creating resilient communities, partnership building and efforts to sustain continuous growth, something like that talks about when we reach whatever plateau in the future, then we got to establish a plateau on what we want to do. And so I don't know if those words are the right sequence there, but to create a resilient community seems like it could be incorporated in efforts to sustain continuous growth or something along those lines.
It doesn't seem aspirational enough for me. Continuous growth.
Are all our community members gonna be able to understand?
Nobody understands
from
the
this
mission.
what we're doing?
In
Or
order to
what
cut
we
it,
do?
in order to cut it a little bit more, let me propose another idea. To improve the health for all Coachella Valley residents through strategic funding and partnership building to just cut off the access and outcomes.
I liked the second one because I felt like it was more direct, straight to the point, and everybody would be able to
Mission
understand.
statements are never direct, though. Nobody, like, reading a company's mission statement doesn't necessarily tell you how or what they specifically do. But it gives you an overarching kind of dome that you live underneath. And your overall dome is like access to care, improving the care, which is outcomes, and how we do that. We only put the part after through just to give people an idea of like, what are our two main mechanisms that we're gonna do? We're gonna strategically fund and we're gonna build partnerships to increase the access, improve outcomes. And why do we do it? Is to advance, enhance, create resilient communities. And so it really doesn't tell you anything about what you actually do, because there's nothing specific about how you're going to increase access, how you're going to improve outcomes, how you're going to track data. All that's next. So a mission statement is always just like this. I mean, people get hung up on it, but it is important because it kind of lets you go back to the why of what you're doing.
So what do you think about to improve the health for all Coachella Valley residents and getting rid of access and outcomes?
I like access and outcomes because those are, I think, two things. I think having outcomes in there is powerful.
Okay, just throw it
And
out
also,
there.
it also ties to this commitment to measuring impact.
That's right. That's
Very, very.
That's the data
explicitly.
part. The outcomes is important.
So can we just vote on one now and?
Yes.
The only thing I'm gonna agree with Chris on the create.
Yeah.
I would say if we put like to advance resilient
Advance.
communities.
I like that.
I think advance also, I think acknowledges the progress that's already been made.
Right.
Yeah, and so that speaks to co-building and having a community
I
centric
like
approach.
create, but I'm gonna go ahead for consensus building with.
All right, so can we take a vote?
Down. Quickly vote.
Yeah.
Well,
Quickly vote.
because Jan is holding me to a time clock. I can see it
You
already.
guys gotta
so-
yell at the time clock. You guys don't sit here. Just gotta operate. I got 8 cases tomorrow.
All right, who?
Gotta move this stuff along.
Vote. What are the logistics of this?
Really quick, would it makes a little bit more sense if it said advance communities resiliency?
To advance, can you repeat that?
Advance communities resiliency instead of resilient communities? For me, it reads a little funky, but
To advance communities resiliency.
When you're
You're changing the tense.
AI has entered the conversation.
You could bring an AI thing.
ChatGPT's got some interesting versions.
No, I don't want to get into the.
Refine
need
one
to
is
focus
improve-
on-
To improve
on
health
the-
access for all Coachella Valley residents.
It's taking longer
and
too.
Collaborative partnerships that strengthen and sustain resilient communities. It's too more concise, to expand equitable health access in Coachella Valley by investing strategically and building partnerships that foster resilient communities.
Because how it reads right now, I don't see that we are gonna make our communities more resilient. I just feel that we're just describing the communities as resilient.
But we're advancing, the verb is.
So we're giving acknowledgement to the fact that they already exist.
Right.
That's why they took create out, because they wanted to say, hey, these things already exist where we live. And we do have some resilient communities where we live, but we know that that's why we've been giving money away to have nonprofits help advance.
You want to build on that.
Yeah.
And advance
And I
keeps you in
think
the
we could
driver's
go
seat.
on all night and
Keep in
change the
mind-
syntax of everything.
When I started.
Keep in mind where we started is the goal with all of these types of exercises is everybody is 70% happy and 30% upset.
But everybody gets to participate in the discussion. That's the important thing. So how do we take a vote on this officially?
Just raise your hand.
Can we have your guidance on that?
Raise your hand if you're okay with it.
We can always change it. It's not put. in stone.
But
It's not-
staff?
Sarah, raise your hands if you're okay with it.
3, 4.
Megan, you're the only one?
Oh, I said like.
4 out of 6
Okay.
and 6 out of 5 out of 6.
All right, do we take
that's
that vote down?
7%. But no.
Whatever.
Four out of 6?
Okay.
And 6 out of 7?
6 out of. Well, actually, we're 6 out of 7 over there.
No,
Okay,
6 out
you're
of
gonna
7.
Oh, we're 5 out of 6 here.
5 out of 6. Okay.
Sorry. Here's how I see it, there might be communities in our district that are not
Gotta be
resilient, that might feel that we're not talking about them.
Yeah, I need.
Yeah, we need to move on.
Okay. That concludes our workshop.
Good.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for saying.
I gave you a lot of time.
Thank you for saying.
Good thing I'm an attorney. I go by the hour.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, maybe.
Nice to meet you. We'll see you
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Create, but then.
I think we have one more.
Okay, on your agenda, we'll leave you to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Billy and Angelica.
I thought we were done.
Thank you, everyone. It was a
Thank
great meeting.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Have a good night.
Oh, no,
Now
I'm
it's
just gonna
almost
report
10 o'clock.
What's that?
Just gonna report something very quick.
I felt it going the other way on the APHA last week.
Oh.
Chris, I just think that you're gonna be really quick in reporting the desert.
Yeah, we've got one more agenda. It's beyond yours.
Yeah, that's right, we're,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna get to it.
So one more agenda item. We wanted to give an update on Palo Verde. Director Delara had asked after our last board meeting if there was any opportunity for us to consider the intergovernmental transfer program. So I reached out to the county to see what information they had on it, if there was any way possible we could intervene, participating, because I think the letter got sent out, right? So Palo Verde was requesting
It's the $4 million act.
$4 million ask to facilitate that IGT.
Megan.
So we met with Michelle DiArmond a couple of times, and we had asked even could we provide the resources from a request from the county to the county, and haven't worked somehow that way. Because it's a very uncomfortable situation to consider providing the resources directly to Palo Verde healthcare districts, especially with the functioning, board and there's a lot of requirements with that and oversight that I've learned through Jeff, and he can give his legal opinion a little bit more later, but I was learning that the CEO of the organization has to do a lot of signing off on and ensuring that those funds are used accordingly, et cetera, which I'm not excited about that, knowing the, but there's legal issues with, using those resources in another district, which we're all pretty much aware of. We did learn from the county that they're not much in favor of even putting forth funds, even if they had them to do. So it was kind of looking more like a roadblock where, we researched it, but we feel like it's not something that we can come to the board recommending doing in any way. Director Delara, do you have any additional comments? And then I'd like to ask Jeff to give his.
Just appreciate the fact that we asked the questions, that we were very open to the idea to bring something back to this board to consider. And it was very obvious to me and to Chris from the two conversations that we had with the REHS management team that that was not going to work, that there's just too many problems here. And it was just not a matter of the fact that the clock is ticking and it's going to happen next week, but there's other issues that go far beyond that.
And is the bankruptcy part of those issues?
Other things.
There's a bunch of things.
It's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, and whether we could even do it, good point, whether we could even do it with the bankruptcy in place. So Jeff, would you like to offer comments, please?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry I'm not there tonight because I know that Alejandro would like to give me a hard time about the Dodgers winning the World Series, and I'm sorry I'm not there for you to beat up on me. But I obviously you all know, but there's a legal concern with using public funds to directly support a hospital located so far outside our district. I mean boundaries. The primary legal purpose of the use of district funds is to support healthcare programs and services for its own residents. So the IGT process is it's very transparent and specific that funds from the district would be going to benefit a hospital, in the valley. Having said that, there's cases of examples where grand juries have investigated healthcare districts that use public funds to support healthcare facilities outside their boundaries. But that I won't go to that. But I certainly think we should continue to work with the county, and to the extent we need county council involvement, but just to see what types of financial support or options really we've got to support the Palo Verde healthcare district over there. So I think we should continue our efforts, but at this point, I think we just sort of, as was said, it's very complicated with the bankruptcy and all of this, what we really can or can't do without their approval. So, it sounds like the county's sort of taking a step back a little bit and looking at this. And so, we're certainly open to see if there's any options we have.
One question I wanted to ask is, does it make sense for us to respond to that letter since we
No, I don't.
a recipient? I would just ignore
It was
it.
addressed to so many entities, I wouldn't respond.
So
In my opinion, as a board member, I don't want to speak.
I agree, Greg. I think you're right.
Thank you. Do we have a next step?
I think just to continue,
Continue conversation with the county.
We're invited to participate and we accept the invitation.
Yeah, and Letty is our representative. Okay.
Yeah, because
County's not gonna bail them out, trust me.
because the working group, hasn't even been scheduled for another meeting yet. So it's not like there's any significant options or alternatives presently to consider.
Okay.
And the Board of Supervisors didn't even address it with their meeting today. So.
Really? Okay. Any more discussion? Motion to adjourn? Second?
See you Tuesday.
Adjourned.
Tuesday? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Thank you.
I was thinking tomorrow.